Hey, Pepin.
Yo, 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 yo.
I've been thinking a lot lately about some things that I think I know that other people don't know.
Really? Is it about like dogs, cats, and like that beaver that we saw at one time?
I mean, listen, I think about that beaver a lot.
I didn't expect that beaver to come out from that place, but when it did, it was lovely.
I know. It really was. Are we talking about rocket power?
Oh my god, the rocket power. That was the best thing I've ever seen.
That was real fucked up.
Like
No,
it's
but
still on YouTube though. How is it still on YouTube?
that actually blows my mind because it should not be. But it reminds me of no, I'm talking about like facts that other people don't necessarily know, that I don't think normal like people just have in their brain, and I have some stuff that I think would be really cool to share.
Ooh, I think I'm ready. I think we need to talk.
What even is that?
Oh,
You remember rocket power?
Well, yeah, I remember rocket power.
So there's this video on YouTube, and I came across it on facepunch.com, if you remember that site. It used to be big.
I don't.
But it's, how do you say? It's kind of like making fun of rocket power, but everyone's like perverted and porn, and people die.
It's basically Rule 34 for rocket power.
Oh no.
Yeah. But this
think
was early internet when like Rule 34 didn't really exist in a conceptual way. So it kind of blew my mind.
Oh no. Yeah. No. That's Rule 34 is I'm even hesitant to call it a slippery slope because that sounds.
It's a moist slope.
Just a soggy ramp. Soggy ramp of just
So you have seen it.
debauchery. Well, the soggy ramp.
That's
Don't Google
that. Sounds
that.
like a rocket power thing.
The soggy ramp of debauchery.
Ooh, the soggy ramp. That could be like a great like entrance, like a great name. Like I don't know.
Raymundo.
Don't say it's a great entrance.
All right, we could go into this.
Yes, ready.
You buffer sentences. We need buffer sentences.
Yeah, I mean we'll cut. That's
I know.
Welcome back. So glad you guys could join us. I am here once again with my best friend Nathan. Pepin, how's it going today, Pepin?
Yo, I am here. I am ready. I am excited for this excellent, amazing podcast we're going to do together as people with an amazing guest. Who's our guest again, Steve?
It's Tyler from Who Wants Bananas.
Oh, I want bananas. Yes. I mean,
And I mentioned this before, but the Who Wants Bananas, love the show. Great. Highly suggested. WhoWantsBananas.com. Head on over there. Check out the show. But every time I think about bananas, I think about Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. 2.
You gotta get that potassium.
And it's a deep cut, I think. But there's just a scene where one of the kids is like about to faint or die or something, and they're like, "Oh, we gotta get him potassium! Just quick, ram a banana in his mouth."
that's right. That's where I learned about that issue. What's it called?
Lack of banana itis.
Oh my god.
Right. It's the problem we're trying to solve. One obscure '90s movie at a time.
We actually knew that person. You're more friends with the Meader, but they had that thing.
Wait, which one?
The one that starred in the movie. I guess.
Oh,
Shannon.
okay. Wait, Shannon.
Shannon.
Wait, your friend Shannon.
No, your friend Shannon.
I don't know any Shannons. If we need to clear that up.
Okay.
Okay.
Sure. Yeah, remember
Right.
that? Wait,
Yep.
are you talking about anemia? Because that's
Maybe.
an iron deficiency, not a potassium deficiency.
It's totally to do with potassium. Sometimes you don't have enough potassium, you get anemia.
When your
Right.
body gets potassium in, it's like I'm gonna put that right over into calcium.
We'll just slot that in. Just slot that in.
It's fine. It just sticks in there. So, really, really happy to have you on, Tyler. Really excited. Last time you guys were on, you and Ryan were on, we talked about video games, and every obscure fact I have is either about video games or Shrek. So
Oh God.
and one of them's about both. So I want to talk about some like really obscure video game stuff that you guys probably don't know. See what you do know, and I'm gonna be super impressed if you know any of the things I'm gonna say. And then I want to hear what you guys know about, like you have a vast knowledge about one thing or a series of things that is really obscure.
Yeah, it'll get interesting. This is just effectively mainlining trivia at this
pretty
point.
much.
There's just no
Trivia
question,
that has
just-
no other use except right here, right now.
right, which is the best use.
It really is.
Really.
I dig. Okay, give me. Are these going to be like facts that we have nothing, like no context with? Because like, you give me a fact about say some Atari game no one's ever played, but that would be very
fun.
interesting.
It would be for me. But no. So I have a series of facts that I'd love for you guys to maybe I'll find a way to make a little guessing game out of it. But they're
I'm down
about
with
the
this.
Nintendo 64, one of my favorite consoles of all time. The first console I ever personally owned.
There is one about 12 feet.
Yeah,
away
there's
from
one
me
right through this
right
wall.
now. Yeah, we have one. We have one in our office that we don't have a way to hook up yet, but it's been sitting here for.
I'll
like a
start
year.
with a light one that a lot of people do know. The game Animal Crossing that came out on the GameCube was originally released in Japan on the N64, called Animal Forest.
I think I vaguely knew that. I think I saw that not too long ago. But like, was it like a popular release when it came out, or was it just
Yeah,
kind
it was,
of-
and they were gonna put it on the N64 in the U.S., but the GameCube was coming out, so they just rerouted all of their efforts to just releasing it ready to go on the GameCube, and it had more functionality on the GameCube, as you can imagine.
Yeah, that makes a lot more sense. Yeah, because that's interesting that they even bothered releasing it in Japan at that point on the N64.
Yeah.
So effectively, the thing that started the whole Animal Crossing craze was literally an N64 game that was just polished up and kicked over.
Yeah,
the
it's
GameCube.
the last game ever released on the N64. Is the and I don't have facts up anywhere. Anything we say, we can't look up. They need to come from our brain.
Right.
So we need to just know these
Uh-oh.
facts.
Uh-oh. This is a
I
problem.
know.
Then.
I'm,
This is- oh boy,
I'm
this is
excited
gonna
to
get
untangle the problem.
Jumbled. Oh no, that's professionals have been trying to do that for years.
So that's actually a thing with a good number of games, from what I know. So I believe that there's Mario that came out. I forget how it works out, but there's one of the Mario games, like Super Mario, and then there's a Super Mario 2, but that actually never came out in the U.S.
Right.
And then they just went to Super Mario 3, but Super Mario 2 in Japan was actually something else. So they just kind of skipped over that or something to that
They-
effect.
Yes and no.
Yeah, Super
You
Mario
go.
2 was not a real game. Super Mario 2 was Doki Doki Panic, and Super Mario 2. I think I brought it up in the last Who Wants Bananas episode. Anytime someone's like, Mario 2 is the best one. Not a Mario.
Yeah, it is.
Reskin of a Japanese game. It was a
no,
reskin.
because Mario didn't have a set way that it was designed at that time. The first one was Donkey Kong, and then it went to, which is arguable, and then it went to Mario, where you're platforming, side scroller, and then it went to a different play style. Zelda was the same way. Zelda
Well-
1 versus Zelda 2, but you can't say Zelda 2 isn't a Zelda game.
Well, the reason I say Mario 2 is not a Mario game because it literally is just a reskin of a Japanese
Yeah,
game.
so?
It was not designed from the ground up. It's a sham. It's a farce.
Do you know what Doki Doki means?
I'm worried. I don't.
It's onomatopoeia for the sound that rapid beating heart makes.
That's terrifying.
Really?
So heart
Yep.
panic.
Well,
So heart attack 2.
kinda, yeah.
Or heart attack.
That's kind of weird with certain things in like other languages. Okay, this is a side tangent, but that's one example. For frogs in Japan, they don't go ribbit, they go keru. So I only know this because I watched My Hero Academia, but there's like a frog character, and in the Japanese version, it goes keru keru keru. And
That's cool.
I don't know where they get that from because it's just my context, but I'm like, I don't know how you hear a frog and don't hear ribbit.
Because they sound
I
like
mean-
Karoo.
Garu.
Yeah. Do you think a frog can articulate hard R's and T's?
Japan.
To be fair, yeah, the frogs might be speaking Japanese. You don't know.
Okay, Nate, do you have you got a fact?
Oh, I got many facts.
Okay.
So give me a topic, not like a very, like, I don't know. Don't give me like a too specific of a topic. Just think general
Music.
topic. Music. Okay. What kind of music fact? Just I'll come up with some if you want.
I mean, come on, buddy.
Okay.
I'll stick to video games. You can have all of music.
Okay. I want to come up with one which is
Could be a hyper specific about Pink Floyd specifically, or it could be about something way more vague.
audio recording. Back in the day, it used to be very sketchy, so the microphones weren't really that great. And a lot of the reason why you have the old-timey kind of audio sound is because the microphones didn't have a very good bass response. So you kind of get this tinny kind of sound. And if you listen to kind of cheaper headsets, they kind of had that sound too. Maybe it's a little bit different. But there's easy ways to actually achieve that through, say, a little bit of audio processing nowadays is you just kind of roll off a bunch of the low end and you can kind of get that old-timey radio feel or old-timey kind of sound. And another aspect to that too is people tried to work in the mics in a different way back then because, you know, people on older movies, they sound kind of strange because they sound like, and what do you say about that? Like no one talks like that anymore.
Like
But
the
it was
transatlantic.
pretty much. So they were actually just trying to like work the mic in a way because the mic had a certain, say, frequency response and had a certain kind of like way it sounded good. So you actually had to kind of pronounce and kind of articulate in a way that actually picked up the mic, you know, had the mic pick it up where it sounds good. Now, what's really weird and really interesting is there eventually was a kind of a revolution in, say, microphone technology and recording technology. And this started happening in the 60s, definitely in the 70s and 80s. And ever since then, like they just figured out microphones. Like microphones, they're might be a little bit better here or there, but in general, like the microphones of today and all the audio recording stuff of today is actually like comparable to the 70s. Like you record with the microphone in the 70s and 80s, it's gonna sound probably about as good as today. Now, one little side tangent with this too, with music, is people will talk about music and they would say that music nowadays is worse quality and that they want to get that full dynamic range of, let's say, older recording. So they'll say, you know, this record here was mastered to these levels and this was mastered to this. And they say that dynamics nowadays aren't that great. And there's truth to that. But all at the same time, the dynamic range and fidelity of music back then was much, much less because there's so much noise in the analog domain. Now that we have these digital converters, we can actually get far, far better recordings, far, far more range within the recordings. So in a lot of ways, audio recording has improved and it's made us more capable, but in an ironic sort of way, since it's done that, we've been actually squashing the dynamics down over time. So that's my sound/music fact. It took me a second to pull up out of my ass, but I did anyway.
Well, that's pretty cool how little things have changed, but how much they've changed at the same time.
Okay, I got one better fact here. So
Okay, it's not your turn.
Perfect.
We're going round. We're going round. You think the only fact I have is that one silly one?
yeah.
Oh, well, you were right.
Aggressive words. So to stay aggressively on brand, mostly because I can't think of anything else. Apparently, this is just knowledge I've inherited after we named a podcast Who Wants Bananas. The banana flavoring that you taste in everything that tastes nothing like actual bananas apparently used to be what certain bananas tasted like. And they took that banana taste, synthesized it down, and now those bananas are extinct. So those just don't. We're tasting dead bananas.
Wow, banana
Might be an
fossils.
offshoot of our show. It's basically, yeah. I've never fact checked that once.
Oh, it's true.
So I have no idea if it's right, but
bananas have changed more than microphones in the last 30 years, is what you're saying.
I don't know about the last 30, but in their lifespan, probably.
So in a weird way, bananas have changed less than microphones. So here's a question to pose: why did all those bananas go extinct?
Because they sucked at staying alive.
To get to the other side.
It's because they were all clones of each other. So kind of like in the same way that you can like clone marijuana in other plants, you can clone bananas in other plants. So there was every banana was essentially a clone of itself, and then there ended up being some sort of disease that affected the bananas, and it kind of killed the whole banana population. And they were like kind of scrambling because they're like, oh crap, how are we gonna like actually handle this? So they created a new banana strain which was resistant to this disease. And currently, every banana you eat is actually from the same, genome. It's actually the same banana. It's just a clone of that banana.
How did I just get out banana
Wow,
facted?
banana facts. They're hot right now.
Yep.
So hot.
Yep. And that's why they went extinct. And now we have the new banana. And bananas are a type of plantain, I believe. It's like in that family. Plantains taste like potatoes.
So they're tree potatoes.
Tree potatoes, exactly right.
Just lanky tree potatoes. That was, I think, their first name.
Lanky tree potatoes is a sentence you just put together.
Yeah, that's a. I'm gonna make a new folk band called Lanky Tree Potatoes.
I'm gonna call Merriam-Webster real quick and just let him know we changed the definition of banana.
That'd be great if you would call him. He's blocked my number. So,
okay. So the N64 fact. So there were a lot of peripherals made for the Nintendo 64.
oh no, you're gonna steal like the only game fact I think. I
Okay,
might
tell
know.
me what you know about some of the game peripherals.
The one that spawned the best-selling generation of consoles of all time. I forget what they actually called it, but when they partnered with Sony to make the disc drive attachment for, I don't know if this is where you're going, but I'm gonna get in front of you before because I assume you knew this. Where Nintendo partnered with Sony to make a disc drive for their console to the point where they manufactured a couple anyway, and before it ended up hitting production, Nintendo went, you know what, never mind, we don't want it. So Sony went, well, fuck this, we're gonna make our own console, and then the PlayStation was born. Oh, Nintendo, what did you do? But also thank you. So yeah, that's an interesting. And I think there was one that was sold or found within the past year. I think it went for like a couple 100,000 because it's only like 6 that are known to exist or something like that. There aren't many at all. I think they're all prototypes. But sorry, continue with the peripherals because I imagine you know. I am out of facts now.
No, I think that's wonderful. The disk drive, the 64DD. I was actually pulling up the Wikipedia article because I think they were partnering with what's it called? With Philips, and that's how the CDI came up. I think they switched to partnering with Philips instead of PlayStation.
Sure that went well.
Or Sony, as it were, because the PlayStation didn't exist, so it was actually Sony. But so I will no. So as far as other peripherals go, I want to talk about different controllers. So there were a couple that I don't think most people know about that I actually own, and I do want to grab them and show them off on the stream. I have one right here. Here's a peripheral that most people are familiar with. Plugs into the back of the controller.
Yeah.
Is that the
It
Rumble
is.
Pack?
This is the Japanese version of the Rumble Pack, as you can see, because it has Japanese lettering on it.
So it's for the N64 right there?
Yep. So it plugs into the back of the controller, and then it makes the controller vibrate. And it runs on just regular batteries. And I remember I used it mostly for like Star Fox, but I think Donkey Kong 64 came with a Rumble Pack set as well, and a couple others. So a lot of games did utilize the Rumble Pack. But that's a peripheral that a lot of people don't. A lot of people do know about. Now there's some that I think a lot of people don't know about that I do need to run and grab. I have one literally sitting right there. So I'm gonna grab it right now.
This is gonna be interesting because I know a couple, but I don't know what's gonna come from a man who just pulled out a Japanese Rumble Pack. So I'm very curious. I don't know why a Japanese one. They were made for the U.S.
Meader's got he showed me a couple products he has. He has like a lot of like really obscure stuff, and I can't challenge him on his knowledge of video game stuff.
I know. I don't even want to try to guess because my luck, I'll just stumble into whatever's gonna grab and just like pull the wind out of the sails, or it's just gonna be something. It's something I don't even know. Just the wild world of Japanese peripherals. I don't even know. I assume there's gonna be like a fishing rod involved somehow. I don't really know how it's gonna
Oh
work.
my god.
But
I love those old games where it's just like you gotta like do
See?
the fishing rod and it's like pulls in.
Yep.
Those were amazing.
Yeah, those. I mean, weirdly enough, they were like fishing video games. A lot more fun than actually fishing. Where we were speculating. We never actually guessed. We're curious, morbidly curious.
About what it is. So there's
Yeah.
a few. So I can't find one of them right now, and this will be the first one that I show off. That was used in a game, and I do have the video game that it was used in. It's a
Oh yeah,
fishing
I
pole.
swear to God.
What?
Yeah. There's a fishing pole one, and it has the N64 buttons on it. I have it around here somewhere. I think it's in this mess of stuff.
So just so
Yeah.
you're aware, while you were gone, that's what I
love
said.
it.
I'm like, it's probably a fishing pole. Knowing peripherals, I'm like, I bet it's.
I think it's called the Rumble. No, there is another one. There's one. I'm Googling this. That's called the Rumble Rod, and it was made by Mad Cats. It's not that one. There is an official rod controller that was made for the N64. And I
Rumble Rod.
yeah.
Man, we were talking about Rule 34. earlier.
But it was utilized with this game. And this game's really cool. It's from the same guy who did Kirby. I can't remember his name. Something with an I. But this game was used in tournaments, and the guy who designed this game put himself in the game, and he competed in the official tournament and played as himself in his own video game in a tournament.
What a fucking power move!
Fucking legend.
Did he win?
I
had to
I
be
don't
better
know the
off.
answer to that. I don't know the answer to that.
Oh, I mean, how upsetting would that be if you lost as yourself in a game you made to somebody also playing as you?
But that would be hardcore.
That would be
So
hilarious.
I got a couple more, but we'll come back to me. That's mine, the fishing rod for the N64.
Fishing rod. Okay, I'm gonna keep on with the audio train here. So, this fact is about the evolution of music and how music started. Say it was influenced by technology and also how people listen and the venues of listening. So, a lot of say concert halls and everything were designed in a way to amplify and kind of be say synergistic with the instruments at the time. So back in the day, it used to have a lot of say classical instruments, say lots of tubas, lots of say clarinets, saxophones to some degree. Just imagine like the normal concert band. So the halls and the stages were designed to kind of amplify it, because the big problem back in the day was with those instruments, you have to have a lot of instruments to be heard in the whole say environment. So that was what everything was designed for. Now, as time goes on, we started getting amplification, and the big problem back in the day was bass, because bass, I don't know how much people know about like audio acoustics, but bass has a lot of energy, but it's low volume, or rather requires a lot of energy to put out a bass signal. So you have to have like a whole lot of tubas and bass instruments to kind of get that full bass sound in the orchestra. But then when they started coming up with amplification methods, they gained the ability to just amplify the bass and turn it up. And this started actually making it possible to play, say, a lot of types of music in different venues that you wouldn't normally play, such as, like, say, ice rinks, hockey rinks, or these other kinds of environments. And they were able to play these different sorts of things. So the issue with, say, classical instruments is you can't play like in a hockey rink so much because there's so much reverb, or there's so much reverb in the room that it kind of destroys any dynamics and all the little trills and everything. But when you start getting the amplification and also distortion, you could actually have, say, these loud, distorted sounds. And then you get to other environments where it's like, say, club music, so like dance music. A lot of the dance music was influenced by, see, these loud clubs where you essentially don't want to be able to hear what the other person's saying. all you want to hear is the music. It's a huge, consistent volume. There's no dynamics. And it's partly there because essentially the music's kind of more conforming to the environment it's being played in than it is being, say, determined by just like the artist. I mean, the artist is trying to make this for that live environment. And you think about, like, say, some hippy dippy music and Grateful Dead, they're playing on a stage out in some middle of some nowhere town. I mean, that's kind of what that music was designed for. And then if you look at also the evolution of, say, other types of listening, so there's like live listening, but then they started making music more for, say, home consumption. So we started getting, say, nice stereo systems. So a lot of music was designed for these nice stereo systems, and it's designed for optimal living. Like people used to back in the day, they would just kind of sit down in the living room and just listen to music, listen to sound, and they would be in like the best ideal condition for it. But then as time progressed, things started kind of changing. So boomboxes were a thing. So music started, say, conforming to those boomboxes and trying to make it loud, kind of pumpy, and this kind of kind of party music. You just put the boombox, out on the, where you're working or whatever, and you can hear it, wherever you are. And then as we started getting more and more towards, say, like say the Walkmans and the audio you can kind of carry with you. Now the audio we're trying to listen to it everywhere. So as a part of that, the loudness has increased with music, but that's because you want to make sure if you're listening to music that any place you listen to it is a consistent volume. And that's partly why now Spotify and a bunch of these other platforms have loudness, say, standards. And it's a way to kind of make sure the loudness is the same across all their songs, number one, but also so that if someone is going to listen to this in their car, at the gym, on a noisy subway, like anywhere they listen to it, it should be, listenable. They don't have to turn the volume there. Whereas if you look at, say, older recordings, you're going to find that you're going to have to change the volume a little bit more, or it's not going to be as listenable, say, at the gym, because it was meant more for a listening experience in your home where you didn't have all this stuff going on, where it's just nice and quiet. This is actually the entertainment you were having. You sit down and listen to a CD, whereas now we listen to CDs just in or music in any random place. So it's essentially a lot of the transitions and changes in music is what it's coming down to, is a change in the medium for which it's communicated in. Those two are inextricably linked, whereas people kind of don't really see the connection there.
Pepin, the longer you talk, the more I realize I don't know a goddamn thing about anything. That was fascinating.
I mean, so are you talking about the actual music because you had talked about, the types of instruments that are being used, and then you ended up talking about like what the listening platform was and what the setting was. So it seemed to hit pretty much everything from what the instruments are all the way through to where you're listening.
Right. It's kind of a combination of both, because you could think about, there's not really a difference between the two technically, because where you're listening, and also you used to listen live because that was the only choice. There was no recordings. So as the technology improved and the ability to listen to other places changed, then it kind of morphed to that.
So you're saying concert halls are the iPods of the 1600s?
Yes, essentially.
Understood. That's a fucking fascinating fact.
But it's also that there's new possibilities that kind of evolved. 'Cause you can't have rock music in, say, certain venues, or you couldn't have rock music in certain venues because those venues wouldn't be really conducive to it. Or you couldn't have concert music in those other venues. Like anything where it's super echoey, it's not going to work out. But you can play, say, AC/DC in a studio, or not studio, in like a ice rink. You can play it in a stadium, and it sounds great. You can't play. I mean, you can technically, but you can play say classical music and other types of music, but it's not going to work that well. You don't really hear, say, light, fluffy music at baseball games. The reason why is because it doesn't really sound good at those locations.
Okay, I don't think that's the reason why.
I mean,
yeah, that's 100% of the reason why we don't hear light, fluffy music at the eighth inning. Full bases loaded.
I think the emotional response that they're trying to trigger is what you're hearing at those specific places. You don't hear light, fluffy music when you're watching a UFC fight because it doesn't match. The tones are different. I think that has way more to do with like your point remains untouched to that, but I needed to pick apart the one little tiniest little thing you said.
But maybe it's because we don't want to hear it because it doesn't work well there. There's no punch to it, and that might be why it doesn't work on both senses.
So my argument is, even if you wanted to do it, it wouldn't work necessarily.
I see.
I mean, you could probably make it all right, but like think about like a nice thing like that. You like say light and fluffier music. That's going to be more in like say a close club, it's going to be a more intimate kind of region, and it's not just because that's like more synergistic with say the tone, but it's also because that light fluffier sound where that more say subtle dynamics, it's more say conducive to that environment. It's going to sound a lot better in that environment. You can still get it with say on stage, but on stage musics, like on huge stages, they tend to be a lot louder and a lot more punchy. Just in general, you get exceptions, of course. You see a lot of things, but typically you'll see these large stadiums played by these large, loud, punchy bands.
I want more Kenny G at halftime. Is what I want.
Yes.
Just a soothing solo of the man with the most luscious locks I've ever seen.
Yes. And more AC/DC and nurseries.
Ooh, yes, please.
You've been
Interesting people. Imagine those people growing up and seeing Kenny G at a halftime show. To be fair, AC/DC would be their nursery, so Kenny G would be a nice change of pace.
Take your babies to a baseball game. America's pastime.
Fresh out of
past
the nursery.
bedtime.
God, I don't even see the facts I know are usually just like one-offs,
Not a 7-minute tirade. Yeah, that's usually how
It's
facts
impressive.
go.
I am bad.
Nathan's a fucking history lesson. My fact starts in the Garden of Eden. And it ends with beating the devil.
That's how it works. Usually, it's coming from the same person who didn't know there were more levels.
There were more levels to the Bible. I thought it all ended in Eden. I didn't know about Gomorrah and
What about
Babel.
34?
So do you have a one-off fact? I know bananas are your specialty.
Oh, don't start.
Bananas
spreading.
are. It's
Oh, no.
Tyler. Your middle name's Banana, or
Technically, Tyler's a nickname. All my name, my first, middle, and last name is just Banana.
Okay.
Banana. That's it. Actually, it adds more nanas as it goes on. So it's banana, nana,
and then Batman.
It's tricky. Yeah, like Batman. Batman's my stepbrother. But
So
I
is
think
is that where that score came from? From your mom yelling at you?
Yeah.
Banana,
Yeah.
Batman. You're like, we're in trouble.
Right, mom's singing again. But I think I don't know. I feel like a lot of like genuine facts I'll have are probably focused around hip hop.
Do it.
One of my favorite and arguably more interesting, and Pepin, I feel like you'll be able to call me out if this is wrong. Not do I feel like, I'm positive that if I'm wrong, you'll call me out on it. But good old Dr. Dre, in the more public eye, he gets a lot of credit for being a rapper. He barely wrote anything he did, and he's pretty upfront and honest about it. He specialized more in production and especially engineering. There's a reason why NWA still sounds good today. Dre was mostly on the boards doing that, engineering everything, making everything sound good. Still kind of what he does now. And to that point, I appreciate the audio nerds behind every like good song that people just don't appreciate. There are plenty of like pictures of like rappers in the studio, and you just see like this Rick Rubin looking dude who just looks like Zeus from any painting you've seen, who just looks super out of place. But that dude is making sure that song is going to be successful. Like, if he wasn't there, doesn't matter. So Dr. Dre obviously gets a lot of credit, I think it's just a lot of misplaced credit, where he should get appreciated as an incredible producer as well as an incredible engineer. But I think that's my fact. So it in the game I play when I listen to a lot of Dr. Dre is find out who may have written the verse that he's actually rapping. So chances are, if he's featuring on a song with somebody, whoever he's featuring with wrote the verse for him. It's very, very interesting to try to narrow down who wrote it for him.
And that's fast. I think ghostwriting's super popular in general in the music industry, and I don't think it takes away from the skill.
I'm torn. So it depends. I think in hip hop and rap it totally does, because it doesn't take much of a voice necessarily to rap, right? Most people, if they can sit down, they can write. Chances are they can work their way pretty much out of the gate to at least have a decent delivery. Singing is a little bit different. I think singing in and of itself is a talent that not everyone can do. So if people are writing things for singers, I think it's a little bit different. Again, that might be just misplaced judgment on my part. But like I think the barrier for entry of rapping is way lower than singing, because most people can grab a microphone, can get some music, and start effectively writing and reciting poetry. Not everyone's going to be Freddie Mercury.
Yes, but you're taking an amateur versus literally the greatest vocalist of all time, so that's not really fair.
True.
I disagree with you.
That's fair,
because I think that there's something to be said about tone, how words are said, and flow. That you can have poetry on a page, but to turn that into actual listenable and enjoyable rap and hip hop is night and day. To the same level that it takes to be able to modulate your voice to sound good when singing.
Yeah. No, I think you have a pretty solid point. I think if we are going to go with my terrible comparison of like an amateur to effectively God status, but I think I think what may be more accurate is the skill gap between an amateur and someone at that caliber is much wider when it comes to singing than it is when it comes to hip hop. I think. Could be wrong. I've never delved into the world of singing, and Pepin, you look like you got something.
So I'm going to try to maybe explain this point out. So I think you're saying that with rapping, the barrier to entry is a lot lower. So let's say you go from skill level 0, and let's say it's on 0 to 10 scale. It's easy to go from a 0 to a 5, let's say. So it's easy to go from, like, say, terrible or not being able to being somewhat competent with it. Whereas singing, it's harder to go from a 0 to a 5. Like with rapping, you might be able to put out something, within, say, a couple months, a year of practice, where maybe it's not like amazing, but it's like, oh, this is rap, this is decent, it's mediocre, but it's not like terrible. Whereas you could spend a year trying to learn how to sing and still suck. Like no one's gonna listen to it. I tried it. But one distinction I would make is that I do think that although those scales might be different, that maybe it takes longer to get better at singing. I'd say the best rappers put as much effort or have as much, say, talent or where we might say impetus, genius to them as, say, the best singers. So, like, there's definitely, I think, a gap in how fast you progress in there. But like, there's certain rappers out there, like one I think of, the main one I like is Eminem. Like he's definitely up there as far as, say, creativity caliber, the way he kind of says his lines, and also Biggie Smalls. He also has a way of kind of like saying things and kind of communicating in a way where it's very high class and high caliber. And certainly Freddie Mercury has his own sort of, say, I think it's more different than it is like better or worse, right? I think they're two different scales here. But I would say yes, like you progress faster, you can get better you can progress faster with rapping than with singing, but it also doesn't mean that getting really. I think it's also really hard to get good at rapping, like super good.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm not saying it's like it's. I think. Yeah, it's hard. They're both hard, right? I just think there's I think you nailed it. There's you can get to mediocre quicker in rapping than you can at singing. But yeah, I mean, once you get to the top tier, the upper echelon of everything, yeah, what those guys are doing on either side is incredibly difficult, and not everyone's going to do it.
Agree to disagree, because I definitely disagree with you guys' point. Everyone knows this bad boy.
Ooh. Oh, is that the game? Yeah, the Game Boy.
Game Boy adapter. Most people used it for this Pokemon.
So wait, what is that? What does it do?
So it plugs into the back of your N64 controller, and you put in a game. And specifically, for Pokemon, if you play Pokemon Stadium, you can put your characters from this game into Pokemon Stadium to battle against your friend who has their Pokemon in, and then you can battle 1v1 in Pokemon Stadium using your actual Pokemon.
Huh.
I think that was the first time. Maybe Pokemon Snap came before. I don't remember. But it was certainly the first time you could bring your own Pokemon into like a 3D realm. Yeah, that game was wild.
No, that's a great game. Pokemon Snap, I think, was very, very late. It might be the last game released on the US N64. That might be wrong, but I think it was very late game.
I think the subtext for this whole episode is that
yeah,
might be
pretty much.
So did you actually use this? Like, is this something you just have for collectibles, or you use it?
Both, yeah.
Huh. Okay.
I mean, yeah, it's something I've used before too. I don't know if I have one anymore, but I've certainly used it.
See, I never really played the N64, to be honest. The only time I really played it was with you and Nick Stewart.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair.
Back in college, playing what was it? Super Smash.
Yeah. I have Smash 64 in the other room in Japanese.
Why do you go like that extra step and get the Japanese version?
I have the Japanese version of most games, and the answer is very, very simple. Money.
What, like
that you don't like having any?
So on eBay, you can get Super Mario 64, Mario Kart 64, Smash Brothers 64, and Mario Party, or 3 Mario Party games in Mario 64 in Japanese for $20, $5 a game. Each one of those games in the US is like $40 to $60. So it's cheaper to get all 4 of those in Japanese than one of them in English. And most games, the language doesn't matter, especially if you know what you're doing. Does the language matter when you're playing Super Smash Brothers? No. Mario Party, if you don't know the mini games, matters a little bit more, but you can still figure it out. And the mod for it's very simple. They didn't have region lock chips at the time, so the back of an N64 game has these little cutouts on it, and in the US version they're inset, and in the Japan version they're on the outside, and inside where it connects into the slot, there's these 2 little knobs that make it so if you don't have that cutout, it won't slide in. So if you just cut those knobs off, you can put any game you want in there. So there's another one that plugs into the back of your controller, and it goes to your finger, and it goes on your finger while you're playing, and you play with it on your finger. It's a heart rate monitor.
One. Were there any games that actually
used it? I think there were 2. I can only remember one. And it's Tetris. And as your heart rate goes up, the blocks drop faster.
Oh, Jeff is going to have a hard time with that.
Which I don't find very, very troubling, because if you just never get like towards the top, you're never going to be stressed out about it.
Yeah.
And it goes really slow when you have normal resting heart rate.
So does the game stop if you die?
Yes, everything stops.
Does it just, right? Well, you're not wrong. Oh, we entirely lost Pepin. So one of my favorite rappers, good old Aesop Rock, not to be confused with A$AP Rocky. Very, very different people. Very, very different styles of music. There was a gentleman a while ago. I unfortunately don't remember his name. Welcome back, Pepin. The gentleman put together an infographic of various rappers' vocabulary. He ended up doing 2 versions. So the guy, he put together an infographic of different rappers' vocabulary. So he ended up doing 2 versions. One of them, he's kind of had them scattered to figure out what their density of unique words were. I think in the first 5 years of each artist's respective careers to kind of get it as close to even as possible. And he kind of, the top of the chart, he kind of used Shakespeare as his baseline, just to kind of
Who invented his own
right?
words in order to to write his rap.
Basically. Shockingly, he wasn't too far away, and actually some of the rappers outdid Shakespeare. The first chart didn't have A$AP Rock on it, and people were furious because, like, how dare you? He's kind of the most word dense rapper there is. How can you not include him in this chart? So he responded. He put out the chart because he said he initially made one with A$AP Rock on it, but he was so far off the chart,
He's an
broke
outlier.
the scale. So yeah, basically, he's like, I only didn't put it on here because visually it made no sense of how much, how dense his words were. And it's funny to see because like DMX is at the bottom of the list, not a very large vocabulary. I think a growl counts as 1 word across his discography. But it's very, very interesting that there are, and I think most of Wu-Tang was pretty high up there too. I think half of them being like 30 people, surpassed Shakespeare. So it's very, very interesting to see where that has come, and I don't think people respect it enough.
That's actually
Personally.
really cool.
That's a different tirade.
I know we're heading towards a wrap here. Pun intended. So I have one more big one that I wanted to show off that I'm really, really excited about.
Are you living inside a Japanese N64?
Yes. So there are 2. So there's a game. It's called Densha de Go. It is a train simulator. And it uses a microphone attachment that's only used with one other game. Hey there, Hey Pikachu, or whatever that's called. And Densha de Go. And it's used to greet passengers. And that's it in the entire game. You just use it to say, welcome aboard, and thank you for riding our train. You need 3 peripherals in order to play this game. One is the microphone, and you don't have to have that one. One is a regular controller, and that's just to select. And the last one is this right here. It's the Densha de Go actual train controls. Man, I'm so excited to get to show this stupid thing off. It says Densha de Go right on it. 64. And you throttle up and down. And up you throttle.
Now, what is that hole in the
guess?
middle for?
Can anyone figure out what the hole in the middle is for?
A cup holder?
Is that a
It's
cup
not a
holder?
cup holder.
Oh, that would have been great. I'm gonna assume
No.
That's not the microphone, is it? No, I have no idea.
It's for a stopwatch. Because you're a train conductor.
Oh.
And trains use stopwatches. So it's for a pocket watch. You put a
Oh.
pocket watch in there.
That's
You know how
wild.
train
Okay.
conductors always have the vests and they always have the pocket watch and they pull it out and they look at it and they
No.
click or whatever? That's what it's for, legitimately.
Never seen the most dead face. Just no idea what you're talking about.
So thank you, Tito, for your
they still
Densha
make
de Go
peripherals.
controller is what it's actually called. So
That's great.
Yeah, thank you for coming to my TED Talk. But it's actually really confusing because there's no instructions anywhere online about how to use that, and it's a lot. It's actually a really fun game, really hard, but it's really fun. It's deceptively fun.
Do you have
Yeah.
Do you have the microphone?
Yep.
Nice.
And highly suggest it.
Great. I won't.
All right. Nate, do you have a quick fact you want to do, or we want to wrap?
I'll do
It's-
a quick
It,
fact.
it can't be a 6-minute tirade.
Okay.
It's only going to take
All right,
25
no
minutes.
6-minute tirade
Okay.
this time. All right. So my quick fact
Mhm.
is this. So back in the day, so people say, oh, ancient people, they used to know how to make fire, right? Now you wouldn't live like a day in ancient times because you couldn't make fire, right? Well, fun fact, back in the day, they didn't make fire, or rather, one guy did. But the way it would work is essentially you kept the fire going. So you made the fire once and you just keep it going. And then so when you need the fire, you would take that fire, like burn a little stick, bring it over to the other fire. And what happened is, let's say your fire went out, you just would borrow fire from a neighbor, right? So this idea that, ancient people knew how to make fire, it's not true. They didn't know how to make fire. I mean, some did, obviously. They could get started back up again, but the fire was more something that was kept over time. And a fire might be there for like years and years and years. Ideally, you would never have it go out because the fire was always so useful.
That's actually really cool.
So is that the first example of piracy, or as I like to call it, piracy?
Oh, those land pirates always stealing my fire.
that reaction.
That's the right reaction, actually. Hard.
I think it's
burn.
actually where the term firekeeper comes from.
Mhm.
It's the person who keeps the fire. Very important job.
Huh. Well,
Is that like a trapper keeper?
yes, exactly the same thing. Lisa Frank was actually the first firekeeper.
Lisa Frank, the firekeeper. I want to see that Netflix documentary. Lisa Frank, firekeeper, coming to summer 2020.
Ooh.
So badly.
You won't believe your eyes when you see Lisa Frank, firekeeper. Rated PG-13.
Lisa Frank on fire.
Okay. I think we need another fact about bananas. Particularly, if someone who wants bananas, where would they find bananas?
Okay, so I'm glad you brought that up, because I think this is the only other banana fact I know. The best place to find out more about bananas specifically, weirdly enough, excluding the one banana fact I already talked about, but you can go to whowantsbananas.com, find out all sorts of stuff about banana related podcasts and videos, clips and store. And then there's pictures of people who talk about bananas even. So it's a pretty good resource to discover hilarious things you might not expect about bananas, and the age-old quest to find out, in fact, who wants bananas.
Whowantsbananas.com. Highly suggest. If you guys like this show, and you of course do, you're going to like their show too. I promise you. Give it a try. Who Wants Bananas? Highly suggested. Thank you so much, Tyler, for joining us.
Thanks for having me. It's been an absolute blast. As noted by the impromptu second episode we ended up filming, recording, whatever. Yeah, been an absolute blast, and we'll have to work out something to get you guys on.
I'm
Who Wants
really
Bananas as
excited
well.
for that.
Be
I
all
want
fun.
bananas.
You want bananas.
Uh-huh.
I mean, sometimes I dress up as a banana.
Wait, what? Sometimes you
Rule 34.
is it peanut butter jelly time?
That used to be the biggest meme ever.
That was
and
the
I don't know
biggest.
why. Like why would it come into like play everywhere? Like there's no reason for it.
It was a moving
Yeah,
picture
That was
a
early
GIF?
GIF.
at the
It's
time.
GIF.
GIF?
GIF.
GIF?
Nate, we need to talk.